Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are, good evening maybe. Welcome to Around the Table with Icon UK, February 2017. This month we've got a great webinar ready for you. We've got Chris and Leon telling us what's happening in IBM's cloud again. Oh, Chris, I must get you a better IBM Champion logo. So this month we've got a great webinar for you. We are talking to Amanda and Libby about the Champion program and what it is, what it's about. But first off, we have Chris and Leon give us an update in what's new in the cloud from IBM Social Software. I'm sure lots of you are going to be at IBM Connect, and I cannot wait to see a bunch of you there. Suffice to say that Icon UK have the pleasure of having a beer budget this year. So if you do see me around the place, and I will be flying solo, unfortunately Sharon and Steve McDonough can't join me this year. But if you do see me, grab me and I'll see what I can do about buying you a beer or a beverage of your choice. Just as long as it's not a bottle of whatever. We'll do single glasses, I think. But yeah, if you see me, come and grab me, and we'll see what we can do to make your day that much more enjoyable. We're going to pay it forward this year at Connect. So, without further ado, Chris, Leon, tell us what's new.
Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone. What's new in the world of collaboration? Leon and I will just be taking you through a short tour of what's happened since we last talked. There are things that are not coming soon. There are things that are here. So let's move on to what's new in the world of Verse. So, calendar inbox. It's here. It is real. It is not visionary anymore. Since 23rd of January, if you have an account, you would have probably seen it by now. It's been trickling through the system. But what we're going to do now is show you what is all the fuss about the calendar inbox and what's so good about it. So this is calendar inbox. In fact, well, calendar inbox was mainly a feature, but we've always promised with the design of IBM Verse that calendar has always kind of been part of the plan. And this is what you're seeing, and what you'll see in this session is really the first step of what we're doing. So what is new? Over on the left-hand side, there is my calendar inbox that's showing me all the invitations in one place. I don't need to go through my inbox anymore to try to figure out where all my rescheduled notices are and where all my invitations are. I can see them all in one view. And here over the right-hand side, I've got my weekly view that I can change between day, week, and month very quickly and very easily. And I can toggle off this calendar inbox if I want to get a view of my entire week. And I have had quite a busy week, and tomorrow is a bit crazy in terms of what I've got going on. So there's quite a few usability features that have been built in to help you work with your calendar a lot easily. So let's take you through what some of those are. As you can see, there's a red line on Thursday afternoon because it's just after 3 p.m. so I can get a view of wherever I am in my week, and I can come back to my day whenever I need to. But one of the use cases we had with the design of the calendar is being able to just quickly put stuff in there, because we have seen people use the calendar to quickly block out time. So if they just want an hour, half an hour to do something, to block it out, say, I need this hour to do some internal work or whatever work I need to do. So I can just simply click on any gap within my calendar and just enter a subject, say I need to do expenses. In fact, let's do this for a day in the future. So I can say, do expenses. I'll just very quickly dump that in my calendar and move that to an appropriate time, because we have drag and drop, as we always have in calendar. So let's just very quickly be able to put stuff in wherever you need to. And you have options of building out to go to more options to make it more than just a subject. So it's just a very quick way of being able to dump stuff in your calendar for whatever reason you need to. Mentioned the calendar view. We can build up by day, week, and month, which we've always been able to do. But being able to get a view here is quite easy. And we're moving into how we can use analytics to build up things like heat maps and so on and so forth. But I don't want to steal the thunder of what's going on in the keynote at Connect. So let's come back to my week view here. So you may have seen with when I put my do expensive task that drag and drop is there, which it always has been, but there's been some very helpful prompts that have been put in. So here, if we take this calendar invite here, I've got Project Titan, a review session I've got at 1 p.m. tomorrow. Now, just as I'm used to in my Verse mail view, I have quick links through to the parser for my meetings and links through to web meetings when I need to. But if I wanted to move this to a particular date, a time when I've got free, I'm going to drag it to 10 a.m. Tomorrow morning. And I get this prompt saying, because I own this meeting invite, that I can move this particular instance, all the instances in just the future. So similar to the prompts I would be before, but in a more easily visually digestible setting. So here I'm going to move just this instance for Friday afternoon, and then the update will change and refresh once that's gone through and been sent out. There we go. Here I've got some other meetings between Bill. I've got a lunch meeting with Bill and one with Betty. I'm unfortunately going to have to decline the lunch invitation from Bill. I'll have to just move it to next week and do that later. What I will do as well, I've got a session next week, I believe. I could move to next week. There we go. Ali Singh has got a session here. I'm just going to quickly cancel this one because I've got several throughout the week. But I'm just going to timing for the invitation. I think I'm going to shorten that one to an hour. So at the top and bottom of every calendar invite, and this works for the ones that I own or the ones that other people own. Now, in the case here, Ali Singh has invited me to this meeting, so I don't own it. So I'm just going to request that we shorten it to an hour. So saying, want to propose a new time, 1 to 2 p.m., just this instance. There we go. So that's a repeating one, so that won't work. Let's choose this one, and we'll just reduce the time to 30 minutes, just this instance. And then that request that's also a repeater one. We don't support repeater ones currently. So yeah, let's take this one. Just review the time here. There we go. There we go. And obviously it'll disappear, and the counter request will be sent over to Ali, and then I'll get a response on whether that's been accepted or not. So being able to drag and drop and move around my own invites as well as other people's is actually quite easy, and be able to view them if we open up this particular one. So I can see all the details of this particular project checkpoint, when it is, whether there's any web meetings I need to access, but always on the right-hand side I get a visual of where that is in my week. My internet connectivity is not good where I am. Let's just move that out. There we go. Bring up my management review here. Okay. So just as I am used to in the previous version of the calendar, I can see all the details as it was before, meeting ID, passwords, all the invitees, and so on and so forth. I could also do the usual of copy into a new meeting invite with all the content and body if I wanted to. It's all there. But wherever I am on the right-hand side, I can see my day at a view and what I've got coming up. And if I were to be, for example, creating a whole new meeting invite altogether, I can, in fact, drag and drop. So if I want to look for a free space on Friday, all I can do is select that as a space, and then my date and time will change appropriately in my new meeting invite here. It's very easy, and like I mentioned, this is really just the start of what we're doing. If you're on last month's webinar, and if you're listening to this on the replay, you'll be able to go back to previous month's replay where we had Barry Rosen and Scott Sauder. Speaking about Verse on premises, Scott did give an indication that we will be talking more at Connect at the end of February about what we're doing with the calendar, and that's supporting some of the things that we're used to in notes, but also going beyond. So do wait out for that. So that was a whistle-stop tour of the calendar. Before I pass on to Leon, there has been some updates as recent as today, just a small one. But we're always concerned about the design, and we love user feedback. So every user who uses both Verse Mail and the Verse Calendar experience will now see this little bee icon at the top within the navigation bar, where a user can launch a quick survey to fill in not just their experience, but what they think about it, good or bad. Please, we want your feedback. So wherever you see this, you'll be able to give feedback, because you never know, it may be in the next iteration of the update. So please do use this if you have any feedback for the Verse mailbox or the Verse calendar. So now I'm going to just pass over the reins to Leon to cover some of the other parts. Go ahead, Leon.
Thank you very much, Chris. So I'll be covering off a couple of the updates that have happened with Connections Cloud, but then also just a few of the updates that have happened. Mainly it's going to be talking about Connect. However, in the past, since we last spoke in the last webinar, there hasn't been any updates to actually Connections Cloud itself in terms of the social platform. However, there are a couple of things to talk about in terms of the admin perspective that it'd be really useful to be aware of and what is actually coming up. The first one is quite intriguing, actually. It's a feature called Partitions. The way to think about this is about user management. So in Connections Cloud's administration roles, you have an administrator assistant and you have an administrator. And the administrator has to deal with everything to do with administration of that organization. However, if you've got quite a few users in your organization and you want to delegate that down to different departments or whatnot, that's not quite possible today, because you're either an administrator or you're an admin assistant. You don't want to give all the capabilities to these user admins. With Partitions, there's going to be a new role called the user administrator and the ability to create these partitions. And so what you can do is use these partitions to assign different people who are given the new role user administrator to look after departments or groupings of people. And so they can edit and manage the different users that are within their partition. And so they can essentially look after maybe their own department. It could be an office. It could be a different geography. Depends on how you want to set up your organization, how you want to set up the user administrators, and also these different partitions. And so this will be coming soon. I think we did see the notification around mid-Feb, maybe late Feb, but I would say just keep an eye out for this. This will be coming soon and has a few implications in terms of how you start to administrate and manage users within Connections Cloud organizations. The second aspect, which is for awareness, is a new web player for Firefox, the non-ESR Firefox 52. So in essence, from Firefox 52, they will not be supporting NP API as a protocol, which is typically used for these kind of web players to have audio video capabilities come through the Firefox browser. Chrome has already taken away their support for NP API, and Firefox is following suit for the non-ESR stream of Firefox. So if people are using that, the recommendation is to either use another browser that is currently supporting the web players, or to hold off informing users to not upgrade to the very, very latest Firefox non-ESR until a new web player is made available for this Firefox version. Just the reason I'm really highlighting the non-ESR point is that we will still be supporting the ESR channel, which will still support NP API, and until such future time that Firefox decides to remove support for that in the ESR channel, then we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But for now, it's absolutely fine for the ESR channel Firefox, but upcoming new web player for the non-ESR Firefox. And then just a couple of other things before we actually hand over to Amanda and Libby around the Champions program. It's first of all, Social Connections, the Connections user group that meet, I think, either annually or biannually, either in Europe and North America, have actually announced the next location for the 11th installment of the user group, which will be in Chicago, USA. If you want to find out more information, it's on socialconnections.info, and I'm sure they'll be releasing more details as and when they get closer to the next user group, which will be in June. And then, of course, it'd be remiss of me to not mention this event that's coming up, Connect 2017, you know, a couple of weeks time. Much more information is coming out about you know, what's going to be shown, what's going to be happening at Connect. So if you're not registered, why not get registering now? ibm.com/connect. And here's a few of the sessions that, you know, you could actually keep an eye out for, and some of the highlights. So, for example, we're going to have a lot of talks around Watson Workspace and Watson Work Services. So what is the strategy, the roadmap, why you should look at work services and take advantage of it. Having a deeper dive, looking into Verse on-premise and where that's going to go in terms of a platform and, you know, when releases come out. A big area around connections, so the new release of connections for later on this year, and also the future direction, or codenamed Connections Pink. So a lot more information coming out of that around in Connect. So definitely something to look out for. And also the ongoing you know, Notes and Domino estates with and the roadmaps coming up for that, as well as some look into how we can start to bring cognitive into Domino applications. So definitely worth checking out. But then also, don't forget about the other sessions that are out there as well. So, you know, the man in yellow with his user blast session, Matt Newman, Guru Plaza with some of the IBM champions, and also the ever popular Ask the Technical Team. If you've been to Connect before, it's the newly renamed what was the product managers or the offering managers asking session, as well as developers as well. So all in one session. And so definitely worth checking out. If you don't know, also, you can download a free application from iOS and Android called IBM Events, where you can easily create and manage your own agendas and get access to all the agendas as well. So definitely worth having when you're at the conference and wanted to learn more about what's going on and what's in the sessions. And so that's all I've got to share with you today. And now it's time to hand over to our topic of the month, to Amanda and Libby, to talk about what the IBM Champions program is all about. So over to you.
Awesome, thank you. I also want to give a plug for Guru Palooza. So this year we're doing something a bit different at IBM Connect, and we're having the IBM Champions actually MC it as well. So last year it was me and Matt Newman, but I think this year we've decided to hand over the reins to the IBM Champions and let them run the show. So it should be fun. All right, so Tim or whoever's in charge of the slides, could you switch? So, all right, so I'm Amanda Bauman. I am the ICS Champion Wrangler. That's not my official title, but that's what people call me. They also call me other names like Spamanda and a couple of other things. And what I do is I look after the IBM Champions for IBM Collaboration Solutions. And my partner in crime is Libby, and I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Hello, everybody. I'm Libby Ingrassia, and I took over the Head Champion Wrangler title that Amanda had bestowed upon her. Now she bestowed it upon me. And I look after the champions worldwide and across all the brands. And we'll talk in a little bit about what that means and where all those champions sit. Shall we go ahead and advance to the next slide? There we go. So what actually is an IBM Champion? Obviously, you can read this. The IBM Champions are the influencers in the community. IBM Champions can be developers, they can be admins, they can be architects, they can be educators, they can be business partners, they can be customers. They come from all areas around the product lines. And the things that are key about them is that they share their knowledge to enrich the community, and they do this in a number of ways that we'll talk about. Go ahead to the next one. So this tells you a little bit about where they come from. The champions are not IBMers ever. They are, although some of them have become IBMers or were previously IBMers, they are officially recognized for their contributions over the past year, which means that each year champions nominate themselves, nominate others, renominate themselves, and are selected for what they have continued to do. I just want to point out that up in the top corner you see an emblem. Those are the IBM Champion Open badges, and when you see these in the wild, you can click on a badge and it will take you to a verifiable set of credentials that tells not just those of you who get to talk to us about the Champions program, but everybody what the Champions are and do. Okay, go ahead. So the Champions, as I said, are worldwide. Across the divisions, they're in 36 countries. The 4 divisions that they're in right now are Collaboration Solutions, Analytics, Cloud, and Cloud is actually made up of sort of traditional cloud, the things that are the new cloud, the Bluemix, the SoftLayer, the mobile, things like that, as well as some cognitive and what was previously middleware, as well as in Power. Out of the 500 IBM Champions, 123 of them are in Collaboration Solutions, and 3 of those are Lifetime Champions. Only 2 of them know it yet. And if you want to find out who the Champions are, find out more about them, our site is down there at the bottom. Next slide. This shows you a little bit the cross-division breakdown. And what I want to really talk about here are 2 benefits really to customers with this cross-division breakdown. First of all, we have some champions who are multi-division. And that means that they have been selected as champions in more than one area. So, for example, we have champions in ICS who are also cloud champions. And what that means is that they have started to expand their reach across IBM's portfolio, and they've done it in such an amazing way that this year they were really champions in both. They were talking about and teaching and sharing the benefits of both parts of the portfolio. But even those who aren't yet multi-division champions, it's part of their purview to reach across the portfolio and begin to learn and become experts in the other areas. And so when you're working with an IBM champion, you know that they have started that reach, or that they have access to people who have started that reach. And so they're often knowledgeable about how things integrate, how they can expand things to take advantage of things in other parts of the portfolio. Okay? And Amanda, I think I'll turn it back to you to talk about where the ICS champions are.
Okay, so thanks, Libby. So Libby has more of an overarching view of the program, and so I'm going to talk to you now about ICS specifically. So where in the world are the ICS champions? It's interesting to note that most of our champions are in Europe, 53% of them. We have 29% in North America. Australia has grown this year by quite a bit. Last year, we only had 2 IBM champions in Australia, and this year we have, I think, 8. Also, Latin America has more than, I think previously we had 0, and then the rest of them kind of staying the same. So that's how they break down. So next slide, please. All right, so we know what the benefits are for the IBM Champion program. We've talked about this on numerous calls, and I've probably told everybody a million times how great the IBM Champions are. But Tim asked me to talk about why should they be important to customers? Why should customers care about the IBM Champion program? And that's an angle we haven't really explored before, although we all know internally what the benefits are, and the champions all know, but I wanted to point out some of the things that you may not have considered about the IBM champions from a customer perspective. So let's move on to the next slide. So some of the things that IBM champions have access to, we give them swag, we give them recognition, but there are also some other things that are kind of undocumented and kind of hidden, and only the champions kind of know about them. So they get access to early roadmap and strategy information. And what that means is that they can hit the ground running. They know what's coming down the pipe. They've given it a lot of thought ahead of time. They've already kind of processed it and thought about how it impacts their customers. And when things become generally available or announcements happen, these are the people that you can go to and rely on to figure out, how does this impact your business? What kinds of things do you need to consider now that this information is available to you? So while they may not be able to share the early information, because a lot of times that information is under NDA, they have given it some thought and already have formulated a response so that when the information is available, they can be at the forefront of that. So next slide. All right, so IBM Champions get access to beta programs as well. And that's not to say that other people don't, but when we think about who should be in the beta programs, the IBM Champions are usually the first people that we think of. So when they're in these programs, they get obviously previews of upcoming releases and or even features for current or future releases. So they've already kicked the tires, they've taken it for a spin, they know what it's going to do when it's out in the wild, and what those changes mean to your business or to your processes, and they can explain it to you probably in depth as well. So it's all about early access. So go to the next slide. All right, so this one is kind of a big deal. So IBM Champions have a direct line to IBM. So what we do for the Champions is there's a dedicated Champion manager, that's me, and we have various mechanisms that they can interact with me. One of them is a persistent Skype chat that actually the Champions founded that, and it's just kind of become the normal place for us to hang out over the last many years. And it's kind of like the water cooler where, you know, sometimes we just kind of put sarcasm and jokes in there, but a lot of times there's some really good in-depth conversations, and I'm always listening, right? So there are a couple of keywords that I listen for. One of them obviously is my name, and I've kind of trained the Champions to let me just say my name and I'll be there, I'll pop up. And if they have a problem, I'm the person they come to help them find a solution. I may not always have the answer myself, but I will always find the answer or someone who can give them an answer. And so a lot of problems are solved early and much quicker via this mechanism. So if you know an IBM Champion, or you are employing an IBM Champion, or you have an IBM Champion on your staff, you kind of have like a hotline to IBM. It's like the bat phone, and we will pop up and help you almost immediately. So that is a very valuable part of the program that is kind of undocumented. It's kind of like a little secret. So go to the next slide. All right, so in addition to the bat phone, they also have a network of other IBM Champions who they can tap into. So, you know, when I monitor the Skype chat daily, I see so many problems being shared and solved outside of the external channels. They will post something in the chat, hey, has anybody seen this kind of problem before? And someone in the chat will always respond. I haven't seen an instance yet where someone's asked a question and it hasn't been answered in some way by another IBM Champion or taken directly to IBM and resolved. So it's a network of people who know stuff, basically. Go to the next slide. All right, IBM Champions know where to look. So either they or someone they know have blogged about a problem that you're facing, or a scenario that you're thinking of, or considerations that you've got for upcoming releases or products. So generally, they will either point you to someone's blog, oh yeah, such and such has already blogged about that, here's a link, or they will tell you, oh yeah, I put that on my blog too. Also, technical things. They've probably already answered the question that you're asking in one of the forums, either on Stack Overflow or on one of our IBM forums as well. So they always know where to look for information. All right, so champions are prolific sharers of information. So not only do they have access to IBM and a whole network of nerds to help them solve their problems, they also share their own information. So I've kind of categorized them here into three things. So face-to-face events, so things like Icon UK, where they are speakers and running the event and running the booths in the sponsor area. They're also in online spaces such as forums, blogs, chats, LinkedIn groups, and all over Twitter, of course. And then virtual meetings like this one, for example. A lot of the IBM champions are hosting things like this or appearing in things like this across the whole community. And also some champions might be featured in open mic sessions, which is run by the support organization inside of IBM as well. So they're very, very much sharers and very connected. So go to the next slide. All right, so I've mentioned a bunch of these things, so I'm not going to go over these all again, but I feel like this slide really kind of shows you all of the different ways that the IBM champions contribute to the community, just kind of on one slide. It's a lot. You can see that they do a lot for us, and not every champion does all of these things, but many champions do multiple of these things. So you would be tapped into a whole group of experts. All right, go to the next slide. So this is just kind of to give you an example of contributions from last year. IBM is, we kind of track this stuff because we have to show value for the program inside of our own organizations. And so as you can see, over 60 conference sessions at IBM conferences last year. So World of Watson, Interconnect, and IBM Connect. There have been about 40 webinars and podcasts. They've participated in a lot of crowd chats. This is my best guess, 500 or more blog posts and articles just based on what I've observed over the years about IBM products, thousands of tweets and retweets, 40 plus LinkedIn articles. And then let's talk about the user groups for a minute. There are 14 user group events last year that happened, and some of them are 1 and some of them are 2-day events. And the IBM champions are the ones that run these, and that's why we recognize them as IBM champions, because they have massive value both to IBM, to the customers, and to the sponsors that attend them. And so these IBM champions have put in hundreds of hours of work into these user group events. Last year we had 160 or more user group sessions that were hosted by IBM champions, not counting all the other sessions that are at these events. And we reached about 2,000 unique attendees at these user groups. So they have quite a big reach as well. So those things are important to IBM, and I feel like it was good to point them out. So let's talk about IBM Connect. So there are more than 80 IBM champions attending IBM Connect, and that is cross-portfolio. So not only ICS champions, but you'll also find that there are some analytics champions and also some cloud champions attending as well. There are 40 IBM champion sessions at last count. When you're at IBM Connect, you can spot an IBM champion because they'll be wearing either their IBM Champion pin or other IBM Champion gear. And they'll have the IBM Champion logo on them. So if you see a bunch of people in kind of matching shirts, that's who they are. Also, you'll know when you're going to an IBM Champion session because in the conference newspaper, it's going to be indicated by a blue star. They'll also be tagged as IBM Champion speakers in the IBM Events app. So you can actually just kind of look for the IBM Champion tag in there, or you can, when you open up a speaker profile, it'll tell you IBM Champion speaker. The IBM champions are going to be featured heavily at the opening general session. So as you're taking your seats for the opening general session, you'll notice that the IBM champions are going to be, there'll be their pictures and who they work for and their Twitter handle and a quote about what inspires them during their workday. So that's all coming up at Connect. I'm also going to be announcing the lifetime champion for this year at IBM Connect. We'll be announcing it publicly during the closing general session and presenting the trophy. And then come by the Worldwide Independent User Group Alliance booth, which will be booth 317 on the expo floor. It is going to be staffed by IBM Champions and friends of champions who run these user groups. So that's all about IBM Connect. And I'm going to pass it back to Libby now to talk a little bit more about how you can find champions and learn more.
Thanks, Amanda. So there's a couple of places online that you may already know about. The DeveloperWorks website, the ibm.com/champion site, that tells you about the program, and you can find out how people are selected and when the nominations are open, but it also allows you to find individual IBM champions. There's on the homepage of it, there's a search and also a browse function so that you can look at champions in ICS or in other communities, and then you'll see that they have the IBM Champion star on their photo, and they're tagged IBM Champion, so you know that those are the people who have all of this information and access that Amanda's been talking about. And I'll also mention our blog, the IBM.biz IBM Champ blog. That is where we talk about the program, but more importantly, we do profiles of our champions to talk about what they're working on, some projects that they have been very proud of, and kind of other things that you might want to know about them. Again, if somebody wants to work with a champion, get connected to a champion. And Amanda, do you want to talk a little bit more about the ICS specific sites?
Yeah. Yeah, so we have an ICS community, which is ibm.com/socialug. And so I feature an IBM champion there every month as well. And you can always go to that page and see what's happening in the community. Usually I put upcoming user group events on the front page. If you go there now, you can see that the next thing coming up as a user group event will be Swiss Notes user group and then Engage. So, and those are always run by IBM champions as well. Also, the champions are very, very prolific inside of various product chats as well. I know that there's a Verse chat, there's a Notes and Domino chat, there's a Connections chat, and they're not easy to find or public, but if you know a champion, and chances are you do, then you can just ask them to add you and they will. There's also a number of LinkedIn groups that the champions kind of hang out in as well. So those are listed also in the ICS community. So again, ibm.com/socialug. So you can always find a champion if you go to that community. All right, next slide. And Libby, do you have anything else about that?
No, I think you got it.
Okay.
I'll take this one. So one of the things that we like to make sure people know is how they can become an IBM champion. As I mentioned earlier, nominations happen once a year, typically in the October-November timeframe, and champions can renew and nominate themselves. They also are very good about nominating other people who are active in the community, but anyone can nominate someone to become a champion. Champions do a ton of things. You saw all the things that they're involved in what Amanda talked about. But the things that they have in common are what you see, the criteria that you see here. They evangelize and advocate for IBM. They are talking about the products, the solutions, and they are talking about how to get the best use of them. They are very active in nurturing the community. They engage with the community. They work with other people in the community. Some people talk about it, being like sitting at the cool table to be an IBM champion. But what's even better about the champion is they bring everyone that wants to sit at the table with them. They help the community be healthy. As I said earlier, they expand their reach across the portfolio, so they're always learning new things about new elements of the technology, new things coming down the pike. They give IBM a lot of feedback, negative and positive. Now, they do it in a very constructive manner, and so that's what you need to do to become a champion, is be constructive about how you give feedback. But if there's a survey, if there's a beta feedback, if there's feedback about a product or a program, the champions can always be counted upon to give a thoughtful opinion. And at the base of all of that is sharing their knowledge and expertise, whether it's speaking at conferences, doing a webinar, a video chat, or a talk like this for ICON UK. They are the ones who are always sharing. And so if you find yourself feeling brave and wanting to share, that is where you start to become a champion. And I think
awesome.
We can move.
Yeah. So this is I think our second to last slide. So I wanted to end on a high note. So this image is all over the IBM Connect website right now, and in brochures and PDFs. And these are my IBM champions from 2016. And what I love about this picture is, yeah, someone's pointing to me right there. What I love about this picture is, look at everyone's faces. There's so much camaraderie and joy on everyone's faces in this picture that it really does show how much these champions just really like each other. They are engaged in the community, and they have a great time at IBM Connect. And I would love for other people to experience this as well. So if you're at IBM Connect this year, come and hang out with the champions. We would love to have you. You don't have to be a champion to be in the Cool Kids Club. You can come and hang out with us, and you are a cool kid anyway. So I'm going to leave it at that. Oh, one more thing. What I didn't mention when we were talking about IBM Connect is, if you know an IBM champion, they can hook you up with a $100 discount off of the IBM Connect rate right now if you haven't yet registered. So go and ask them for $100 off. So over to you, Tim.
Thanks. Libby, Amanda, great job of explaining the value and the extra value that people can get from talking to a champion. And, you know, as Amanda just said, extra value. If you haven't registered for Connect yet, then A, why not? But B, talk to me, talk to ICON UK, talk to any champion you know and get $100 off the ticket if you haven't registered yet. I just wanted to say quickly about being an IBM champion. It's been a real honor to be recognized as somebody who goes and shares stuff or sets up a user group, and it's all about sharing what's going on and making sure that people are aware of what's about in our social community. There are masses of Skype chats that you can be a member of. So ask any of the champions you know. I mean, there's even one for running ICS solutions on Linux. You know, it gets that granular sometimes. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, I had an instance yesterday running the ICON UK website where I was trying to upgrade our SSL certificates on the Domino server, and I found a blog post by a guy called Marky Roden, who's no longer an ICS champion this year. He's gone off to do other champion things in other brands, but his blog post has helped me out. So it's like this stuff is real world and helps me every day, to be honest. So I couldn't ask for a better bunch of peers to be recognized against, because they're all awesome in their own way. But yeah, it's an honor to be a champion, and Libby and Amanda do a great job of herding us cats, as it were. So anybody got any questions? Chris, can they put them in the chat, Leon? Can they raise their hand in the... Okay, so if anybody wants to ask a question of Chris, Leon, Amanda, or Libby about what's new in the cloud, or being a champion, or what the champion stuff's about, then raise your hand and we'll get to you real quick. In the meantime, it leaves for me to say that next month's webinar, which will be on March the 9th, is going to be, guess what? It's going to be run by next month. Thank you. Next month is March the 9th. It's going to be run by me, but the topic of the month is Reflections on Connect by the Lifelong Champions. So we have Tio and Gab, Tia Hesselman and Gab Davis, lined up to come and give us their thoughts about what they saw at Connect, and what they thought was cool, what they thought was interesting, what they thought was like, hey, what, really? And then whoever the third Lifetime Champion is, I'm going to extend that invitation to them as well. So we'll get a Lifetime Champion view on what happened at Connect next month, as well as, Chris and Leon sharing with us what's new in the cloud, or what's just been announced and released, hopefully. Okay, so I don't hear any questions. I don't see any raised hands. I think
Nope.
You guys have done a great job of explaining everything this month, so nobody's got any questions. You've stunned them all into, like, hang on a minute, there's no questions left to ask. So thank you very much, Chris. Thank you, Leon, Libby, and Amanda. I look forward to seeing you in, a week and a half's time in San Francisco?
Yep.
Cool. I will come and find you and make your day happier, Amanda, by bringing you loose leaf Fortnum & Mason's Royal Blend tea. How's that?
Have I mentioned how much I love you lately?
I don't know. Maybe.
Thank you, Jim.
It's a pleasure. If there's no other questions, I don't see any raised hands. I don't hear anybody screaming on the phone. So I'm going to say thank you very much for watching this month. February's going to be great because we've got Connect in it. And we'll see you all in March to look back at how great Connect was. Thanks very much, and see you next time.